So I invite our moderator of the session, Mr. Balram Mehta, the Group President, Renew Services Business and CEO of Renew Power. Once again, joining us, may I request a moderator to please take center stage. Once again, joining us in this session as an observer will be Shri Lalit Bohra, Joint Secretary, MNRE. I invite our panelists, Shri RP Gupta, Chairman and Managing Director of the Solar Energy Corporation of India. May I request you, sir, to please join us, a leading CPSU under the MNRE and the only CPSU dedicated to solar energy. Mr. Amit Kansal, the CEO and Managing Director of Senvion, with a legacy of engineering excellence. They are one of the fastest growing firms in India's wind energy. Mr. RPV Prasad once again joins us, the CEO of India Envision India. Mr. Ishan Akhori, the Deputy General Manager of NTPC Renewable Energy Limited. As of 15th October 24, RE capacity of NTPC group is almost 4015 megawatt commissioned. Mr. Mayank Lingwal, the Vice President and Head Sales of Siemens Gamesa India, one of the leaders in wind power. And Ms. Monica Rathi, the country head of Veena Energy, a leading independent power producer, RE development company, developing, constructing and owning solar photovoltaic, wind generation and energy storage projects.
Good afternoon and welcome to all of you. I think this is the official first session in which we will be discussing the issues which we are discussing since ages. And I think thanks to the organizers for this beautiful, very intelligent panel and giving me an opportunity to moderate the session. I don't think panel needs an introduction. It's already introduction is given. See, we all in wind sector are working for the fulfillment of PM's energy security dream. And I think before we start the discussion, I want to state a few facts. One is wind potential. I think already we discussed in the morning. Mr. Girish Tanti told that we have 1163 gigawatt at 150 meter hub height and 697 at 120 meter hub height. 500 gigawatt by 2030. Wind will be 100 gigawatt. We are there at around 47 gigawatt. Now, one fact which I want to state may look odd, that in last 7 years, why this 7 years? That when the auction started, the year 2017 till 24, we added 13 gigawatt. And if I take the last 7 years, 2010 to 2017, we added 20 gigawatt. So that means something we are missing. 20 gigawatt in feed-in tariff regime, 7 years, and 7 years in auction regime, we added 13 gigawatt, 20 and 30. At the same time, there were n number of bids. I think around 20 gigawatt, if I 20 wind auctions and 19 gigawatts, and we know how much finally resulted into PSAs, PPAs, and actual execution. So I don't want to go into detail. I think we will be discussing that. One good thing happened for the sector is LPS, which saved the IPPs and sector. So that means something is not working. That's why we are discussing making auctions work. Pathway to successfully reaching India's 2030 RE target. So I think panel is well represented by OEMs on one side, IPP by Monica, and PSU by Ishan. Sorry, Ishan. He is with the NTPC. And Mr. Lalit Bohra, everybody knows. Mr. RP Gupta, everybody knows. So I think it's a well rounded off discussion. And during the preparatory session, I could see the fires. So I am sure it will be very fiery discussion. So I will start with Gupta sir. Gupta sir, I think getting the bid done is very easy because that's in control. How are you convincing the discoms to buy the green power? One. And parallelly, how are you taking their feedback into designing the bid? And since you are on the topic, how important is it to sign the PPAs and then to honor the PPAs? If you can cover that also.
Now the new challenges are coming up before discoms, before developers also. And we have to address them. Actually, this is adding the cost to the discoms. And that is where the issue is coming up. Nevertheless, we have a target of 500 gigawatt by 2030, which has to be done. And there is a RPO for each discom and the state to be met. Now, so this is something which is not compromisable. Now, to meet it, the best is that each discoms find its own solution, and we offer that solution to them. I am very happy that there are quite a few of the discoms who are working in this direction. And they approach us what kind of energy they want, whether they want plain solar, wind, or a combination of this, or FDRE. So they are doing it, and we also talk to the discoms that what is the kind of energy which they would like to have from us, or maybe do their own auctions. We are not at all averse that states carry out their own auction and arrange for their own energy, probably in their own state or maybe from the project from outside. Because it's not necessary that we should always be in between. It would have been a much happier situation if SECI was not needed, or the institutions like SECI was not needed. I have always held it. But since we are there, so we are taking up the facilitating role, and we are taking a role which helps them and meet them their targets, which they have to in any case do. And that is where I think there is some responsibility on part of developers also, and from the industry. Our industry has to offer the RE power at the cheapest possible rate, which of course the auctions arrive at. But the problem is that afterwards, these PPAs which are signed, they must be honored. Or if they are not honored, which have been the case in few cases there have been there, then we find it very difficult to face those discoms. They come to us, they tell us that you are coming to sell another power, another auctions which you have conducted. But what happens to the earlier one which we had signed the PPA, and you are saying now it is not coming up. So it's apart from a commercial transaction and commercial agreement, there is also a moral obligation involved on part of both. Discoms also are supposed to honor, and I think more or less discoms had honored. If some discoms have not honored, they have been made to honor. So I would say that if we carry out in the spirit of cooperation with each other, there should be no issue as far as working of the auction is concerned.
Thank you, sir. Lalit Bohra, sir, you are an observer, but we'll take advantage of your presence over here. Especially, for example, after transmission waiver is over, then the focus will shift to states. In that case, what do you think what will be the role of MNRE in ensuring that we are able to add the renewable megawatts as per the gigawatts as per the national targets? So, how do you want to take it up?
Yeah, So, like role of MNRE as of now also to see that the renewable energy is spread and it increases, and the role will remain the same. But yes, a lot of things will change, and it will change for the good, because the transmission charges waiver, uh, which will gradually go away in next 4 to 5 years, then the landed cost of electricity to different state will be different. And then there are few states which may prefer to have the projects connected to their STUs and use it there itself. However, there may be other states which will still continue to use the ISTS, because the cost of generation, the transmission cost will play a very critical role. And therefore, I see a very good situation where the existing projects will keep on developing and a new set of projects, because you see the requirement of renewable energy will increase and new set of projects will spread to other states. So it will be a sort of continuing the existing stream as well as opening up of a new stream where lot of states where transmission charges will be on a higher side, they will prefer to have power in generation in their state as well. So that is what is the things which I perceive. And that will be good for the industry, that will be good for overall development of the renewable energy.
Thank you, sir. Since you are there on the topic, repowering, like the second time policy was issued, but still it has not like got the attraction, I should say. What do you think, like why the IPPs are not interested, or why the old investor is not interested in changing it over?
You see, as I told in the previous, I am the one who has the least experience in wind, and you people all have more experience than me. So you understand the challenges of working in a greenfield projects and bluefield projects. So working on repowering is a different challenge, and it requires a different sort of bandwidth. So that bandwidth need to be created. At the same time, there has to be some pilot projects where the repowering happens. It happens by the industry, it happens by the state. And one of such projects is being planned by the NIWE also. So they are also planning to do the repowering of their turbines. So once these things happens, then it will provide a sort of tractions. And then the state will also come up, like the state of Tamil Nadu has now come up with their repowering policy. Gujarat already has. So repowering, I feel that it will still take another a year to gain traction, because industry will have to see that how the projects are taking place. And initially, I do not perceive that those projects where there are multiple investors will come into picture, because that is where the maximum efforts will go. So initial will be the projects which are owned by the state, which are owned by the institutions and the few companies, and there the repowering will come.
Thank you, sir. So why we are asking these questions, because our, I think, question paper was out.
A regime of accelerated depreciation. It was a regime of where individual customers could put it up. When the auctions came in, the whole wind industry turned towards larger IPP, larger projects. But what we are seeing, you ask a question how we can bring them back. I think they are coming back. We see a lot of demand in the market now for small captive customers, 5 turbines, 10 turbines, 10 to 20 megawatt kind of customers. This is important growth, because that's how the first 10 years of an industry grew, especially in Tamil Nadu, where we are sitting now. And I think the retail investors, I call them retail investors, they are, along with the larger IPP, no doubt on that. For a sustainable growth of the industry, it's important to bring them up. I'm not saying they need incentives today and all that, but the ecosystem
the difficulties these people face, and some of them are sitting here, is how do they put 5-10 megawatt in a larger scheme of things. That's where a wind park or a solar park, it plays a very important role. These guys will never put a 100 to 200 megawatt project, but for them, 5 to 10 megawatt is what matters, and there are many of them. So, and that's the reason if you compare solar and wind, solar you can go smaller. Solar you can also do rooftop. When we talk about the solar installation, it's all solar put across in India. The retail investor in wind must be brought back. I think it's a great question. They are back, but not as much as we want. That's where I think MNRE can play a very big role, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. So,
Just I want to add same question. Yes, what happened earlier before auctions, majority of run by the OEMs, everything done by OEMs. Generally, they used to do the entire infrastructure, like pooling stations, everything together, and infrastructure to be together. So that's that time, of course, smaller SMEs is easy to be connect. Maybe small, you can say 20 megawatt or 30 megawatt can be added. But now what happened now, because of the more this driven by the IPPs, of course they have their own plans to be add their capacity. So these smaller SMEs now they don't have a option to be connect to the other IPP. Maybe as Amit is mentioned, we have to see that how with the government and the existing IPPs and OEMs together, we can see how we can do the common pool. Then maybe that infrastructure common pool. Then maybe smaller SMEs can be connected to the smaller.
so we have three manufacturers, Senvion, Envision, and SGRE, and they are at a different cycle of, especially the business in India. So, question to Mayank. What happened to manufacturers once the auctions kicked in?
Am I audible?
Yeah.
Thank you for your question, sir, and it is a very deep question which has many reasons to be, and most of our industry participants know what happened to our industry during the auction regime. So as you know, in 2017, that was the year when GBI was the last year, and the average tariff across India was around 5 rupees. And when the auction started, SECI 1, 2, 3 and 3 to be precise, the tariff collapsed from 5 rupee plus to 2.44 without GBI. Now, it was definitely a big challenge to implement those projects at those tariff levels. And I'm very proud to say that I represent a company which completed most of the SECI 3 projects, even at those tariffs, and even later ones which were in SECI 5 and onwards. Now, but the point which I'm trying to bring to everyone's attention is, if the ecosystem is not making money, then when I say ecosystem, it is the entire value chain, which is right from the distribution company to our IPPs, to OEMs like us, and the supply chain partners. At those tariff levels, those tariffs had to be corrected in future. And now what we saw later is the tariff had corrected. And now wind tariffs are inching above 3.5 or even higher, especially in FDRE auction when we corrected for the wind portion. So during those years, from 17 to 20, I would say it was a painful year for the entire industry. And financially, definitely it was not viable to sustain at those levels. Now, thanks to the intervention from Ministry of New Renewable Energy, SECI, and all our regulators, innovation in the auction, the way wind auctions are being conducted has been brought, like FDRE, RTC, which will definitely augur well for future. And we expect that around 2 gigawatt a year industry, which was adding since the auction started, now we expect, and since the tariff levels are better, that the capacity addition per year will definitely go up, because there is more money available to cover for the risk of delays, to cover the cost of setting up these large scale projects across India.
Thank you, Ma'am. See, we all are discussing it because, as the name suggests, we have to make the auctions work. We have to ensure that the sector grows. So we have to learn from the past and see. So, Prasad, like the old manufacturers, they face issues 17 to 20, but Envision flourished during this period, right? Especially your company. So, like, what was the reason? One, if you want to tell. The second is, like, localization, does it help the manufacturer or just assembly and getting it from outside? Like, what is the mix, best mix?
Yeah, localization definitely it will help. It have plus and minus, pros and cons. One is considering the earlier, presently we can have clear visibility. We have visibility, of course, we have different challenge of execution. Otherwise, we have clear visibility of year on year, how much going to be added. We can, IPPs winning the auctions. So we have clear visibility of this one. And to the component manufacturers, OEMs and component manufacturers, we have a clear volume. Volume is visible now. So considering the volume, yes, maybe you can develop a differently local manufacturer. India is considering 15 gigawatt of manufacturing facility. Definitely that will go to the component manufacturers. So they can develop components for the higher turbines, and definitely it will be helpful. But here only see that one challenge is considering the turbines are ratings are changing. Different means life of the turbine, considering not earlier we used to be say one turbine means easily around 10 years life cycle or something. Now it's not like that. Maybe one type of turbine will be hardly 3 to 4 years. After that we have to be launch new turbine. Considering the, of course, tariffs down, we have to be see that how we can able to compete and performance optimize. For this, the volumes are increasing. This challenge is for the component manufacturers, prototype. They have to do the prototype. For that, from the, even I used to be mentioned to in all other sessions also, government said required some support to prototype, develop a prototype. Otherwise, what happened? Naturally, component manufacturers require a volume. So they should be developed, for example, 3.3 to, for example, 5 megawatt platform. For anyone is nowadays going to be higher one. Component manufacturers, they require from government side to develop a prototype, require some incentive. Then what happened? All component manufacturers, then they can be able to put efforts to be, they can be ready for the bigger turbines. So then it will do. Otherwise, what happened? That entire that cost, prototype developing is not easy. It will lot of cost involvement is there. If that cost is somewhere, someone has to be take it. If now that component manufacturer, they cannot take that cost. They will go to the again OEM. Naturally, OEM has to be go to the IPPs. So we have to see how we can able to support the component manufacturer to reduce the cost.
Thank you. Yeah, please.
I'll just take 1 minute on this subject. It depends what choices a OEM has. And I'll speak only for myself here. I think India has a capability today to 100% localize the wind turbine. We are sitting here on a stage for discussing a sustainable fuel. We have to ensure sustainable turbines, sustainable supply chain. I'm not going to market my company here, but what I can tell you is because we didn't have a choice, we are 100% localized in India. And why so? Tower is steel. It's our choice whether to import or buy locally. We buy steel locally. Blades, we make in India, all of us make in India, and all the materials are available in India. There are big suppliers sitting in this room right now for that. When it comes to nacelle, 60% of the cost of nacelle is a generator, gearbox, and converter. And all three are made in India by several suppliers, international suppliers. It's up to us what we want to do, and of course it's up to the government how much manufacturing they want in India. But let's remember one thing, the growth of power in India will come with manufacturing, the growth of manufacturing in this country. It's not only wind, other manufacturing area as well. And that's what will take us to a Viksit Bharat, as our Prime Minister talks all the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Amit. Very informative. So coming to Monica, Monica is one of the few women leaders in the male-dominated sector. So welcome. I think in her resume it's written she is black belt, right? But not in karate, she is black belt in Kaizen. So a softer question to Monica. Being a representative of IPP, say auction, first bid submission, auction, LOA, PPA, and then preparing the site, deciding the site, and then execution issues. It takes a hell lot of time. And IPPs are suffering, maybe because of various reasons. Now the question is, how do you convince the management or your investor for the next bid? What are the problems you are facing?
Thank you, Balram, for this question. And I'll be honest that I think this was a question that we were also debating offline. If I have to break up a project and what are the various phases or various things which are important for us to execute a project, the first one would definitely be technology. We have so many OEMs sitting here, so I don't think wind technology is a challenge because the technology has matured enough. Supply chain is not an issue. We even heard about 100% localization from some of our friends. Investment is not a challenge. Every big investor that you talk about has a platform in India. Every banker is more than happy, including PFC, IRIDA, to be able to support and fund these projects. So what it gets boiled down to is the last piece, which is nothing but land, land, and land. If you talk about what is the biggest challenge in this entire chain and what is that is required to be able to convince the investor, I think the biggest thing is our ability to be able to execute this project in ground, our ability to be able to ensure that a bid that we win gets converted from an LOA to a PPA and also gets converted in line with the substation coming online on ground. Referring to the first topic of land, I would say that I think the ministry has done a great job in terms of introducing the land BG route, because that gives a lot of comfort to a developer where you could maybe invest in land upfront to ensure that some of the challenges with land acquisition are upfront taken care of, to ensure that you would have a viable project at the end of the day. The second piece, which is on conversion from LOA to PPA, I think as our SECI chairman was talking about, there's a lot of effort that is going in terms of trying to understand what the DISCOM really needs and coming up with innovative bids to be able to meet those needs. The latest load following FDRE tender, which I'm happy to say that we were able to win, is an example of matching what a DISCOM requires with what a developer is able to introduce or bring to the table. And while the bid was very complex, I think one thing that really helped us convince our investors was the fact that something called as DFR, the demand fulfillment ratio, the condition was relaxed from, let's say, meeting a 90% to only meeting 80%, which means that they are taking into account the intermittency of renewables before offering this as a solution to the DISCOM. Second one I would say would be the fact that there's a lot of hope that the timeline from LOA to PPA conversion would be reduced. There is maybe some efforts that is required on that end. One more comfort that the investor has on such bids is the aspect of being able to not requiring any NOC if there is excess power and that has to be sold into the exchange market. Now with whatever we have seen happening in the merchant market right now, the market has been booming. There have been instances where earlier a circuit of 20 rupees was getting hit, then 12, then 10. And there are expectations that this will probably continue, at least in the non-solar hours, so to say. So that gives a lot of comfort to the investor that yes, these are bids which they would be able to convert, which would have viable returns for the project.
Thank you. Now coming to Ishan. Ishan is representing the PSU, which will be a major player in the future. And he is from NTPC. So Ishan, not specifically you or maybe your team or the NTPC, how was it easy to change the mindset from conventional to renewable, or what is the like? Still, there is a group who is still favoring that it has to be conventional. Like how that change has happened, because that will be a major contributor as far as PSUs are concerned, as far as wind addition in the future. So how is it?
Thank you, sir, for the question. In NTPC as such, we have completely changed our mind that renewables are the future. We are focusing dedicatedly on the renewables, growth of renewables. Of course, some thermal projects are also coming. And to realize this, we have a target of 60 gigawatt capacity addition of renewables by 2032. To realize this, we have a separate dedicated SPV, NTPC Green Energy Limited, who is working only for the development of renewable projects. Now, of course, the transition from the standard operating methodology in the thermal sector and under regulated environment to this dynamically changing renewable, it has been a tough but nice journey. We are still maturing. What I would say is that from our IPP counterparts, we NTPC as developers, we have a different operating mechanism. As in terms of being a PSU, we have to follow all the public procurement guidelines, and it takes time. Conversion of a project, initial conversion of a project through tendering, through following all the guidelines, it takes time. That is unlike the IPP sector. So, realizing the challenges of the renewable sector, and we have been very, very innovative in our approach of doing tendering, at the back-end tendering for developing the projects. So, we are trying to become as bidder friendly as possible, how the market is operating, how we are able to get the deliverables in the best cost possible. So, we have been changing our, say, the modalities of the bidding models time to time. Like an example I'd like to quote recently, earlier we used to go for an EPC with land model for the wind projects. And recently going ahead with the, based on the feedback from the wind industry counterparts, we split the scope like it goes in the IPP sector. Land and a balance of system in a separate package and wind turbines in a separate package. And doing so, we realized that we can order gigawatt scales projects at one go. And by doing so, we are right now, we are already 2.5 gigawatts, more than 2.5 gigawatts under execution of wind projects. Another 7 to 8 gigawatts are under tendering. So to realize it will be maturing in times to come.
Good. I think in my last 23 years, I have seen many combinations. Now, which one is the best is very difficult to say, because sometimes A works, sometimes B works, sometimes C works. So I hope that at least one of the combination works and for all the IPPs. So Gupta sir, coming to you, do you think a cheap BESS means battery and the solar combination will affect the wind addition in future?
See, as a country, probably we are committed to renewable energy. And I would say more than renewable energy, we are committed to net zero, where the first role is played by energy efficiency. Then comes the renewable energy. So the commitment is for the renewable energy and obviously at the cheapest rate to the consumer. Because as you know, we are roughly at about 1/6 of the per capita energy consumption of the world. But also, the energy deficiency for our population due to our level of development is also quite high. Affordability becomes a main question for them. So we have rightly been, India has been a very price competitive market as far as renewable energy is concerned. And it will remain so, and it should remain so. We should be, whatever is offered to the public, it should be offered at the cheapest possible rates. Now, that is where, if the solar and a battery that wins over wind, so be it. But what I find, it's not that wind can be whisked away. Wind has its inherent advantage. It is available during the time when solar is not available. Its cost is far lower than the combination of battery plus solar for non-solar hours. So this is going to remain. Wind, every component of the renewable energy, be it solar, wind, and on the storage side, whether it is battery storage or pump storage, they have their relevance and they have their importance, and they are all going to be part of the whole jigsaw puzzle. The point is how much and what percentage and what kind of shape that would be, that will be determined by the market and the progress of technology and the prices.
So, Lalit sir, I think as I told that in last 7 years we added 14 gigawatt. Before that we added 20 gigawatt. So, is there going to be any change in approach, or still, like, do you think that auction is the best model and that will continue, or something else so that we can add more gigawatts to the industry?
You see, as far as my information goes, now a lot of industries, industry consume about 40% of the electricity in this country, and a lot of industries have their own net zero plan. So all those industries, they have an option of procuring the electricity through the distribution companies, or they have their own plant. With renewable coming up, there is a possibility of them having their own plant, and therefore that is one area where the government auctions are not required, where it's B2B business, one industry interact with the energy, and during various interactions with the industry and others, I found that that is one area where a lot of traction is going on, and almost all the industries have their target of net zero by 2030 or 2035. So that is one area where auctions will not be there. As far as the government auction is there, that is something which is mandatory. You see, if any distribution company will have to procure power, then it has to be through a transparent bidding mechanism. And therefore the auction will continue to be there when the transmission companies, whether they will procure through the central renewable agency or they will do the auction at their own level. But the auction will continue to be there as long as they have to procure the power.
Thank you, sir. So, Amit, especially on, like in the morning sessions also, we heard that there is a lack of expertise, the skill level, and the Gen Z is not ready to join the sector because it's a difficult sector. Like, from manufacturing side, are you facing any issue that the skill is not available, or the people are not ready to join, or fresh blood is not ready to join, and we oldies are only running the show?
I think it's a very, very good question, and we are struggling. The companies, we all are growing, renewable sector is growing, and but I'll break this problem into two parts. One is there is a good amount of people, we have younger generation who's willing to join R&D, technology, creation of IP. There is, intellectual property being created around new turbines, putting patents inside there. India has one of the largest R&D center for wind sector outside Europe. A lot of companies, major OEMs have R&D centers there, even if they're not selling in India. So that shows the intellectual power of the country. I think where we are struggling is in execution, where how do we get people to execute these projects in remote sites? That's, I think IPPs are struggling, we are also struggling. And before I give a solution, the third area is manufacturing. I think I must say that we have very good quality manufacturing workers across India. And I don't think that's an area we are struggling at all. We can bring in people, train them, and technicians level assembly or manufacturing of the blades, etc. But struggle will continue in execution on the sites, and that's where all of us have to come on skill development. It is a highly skilled work putting up a wind turbine in the remote areas, and that's where we are suffering. And last area is the operation and maintenance, because the turbines have to be maintained for 25 years. You need skilled manpower. I think it's a huge opportunity for the Indian youths to come in a sunrise industry.
Just I want to add on this. Yes, I agree. Challenge is there on the skill set is availability. Of course, considering the addition of volumes in the wind, of course, we require a huge manpower in all the areas, as Amit has mentioned, manufacturing, installations, and the O&M. For this, of course, for example, as Envision also for blade manufacturing, we find initially a lot of different challenges to get the right people on board. We get the right people, and after that, we want to start up one more blade plant. Now, first challenge is instead of getting the land and manufacturing setup, first is we are thinking on how we get the skilled manpower. So there, what we are thinking, we want to be trying to be inbuilt academy. We want to be start an inbuilt training academy. So we want to take the freshers and trying to be train them with the online in-job training as well as the classroom trainings. And like that, we want to be increase the skill set, and we want to use the for the nest.
Yeah, Monica, before you come, you're right, like we hire 100 guys, fresh engineers. They're very happy in HO. The moment you tell them to go to site, half of them leave. So, Monica, what's your comment on that?
I was just probably adding up to what RPV and Amit were talking about. We recently introduced a program called as We Train, which is nothing but Veena Training Academy. And the entire thought process is it's probably better to get freshers, train them in specific streams, whether it is operation and maintenance or construction or engineering, and then invest in them for almost a year before we could actually get them ready to depute them on sites. I think for us, when we are hiring, our requirement is very simple. We need passionate people who are willing to be stationed on sites and not really work on headquarters. So yes, there is a dearth of skilled manpower, and I think efforts from everybody on the dais would be required to be able to address that gap.
I think we were able to add 47 gigawatt because the OEMs worked on the development, and it's very like the job which needs to be done with the patience, like 2-3 years, the investment at site, land, approval, etc., etc. But frankly speaking, for the last 5-6 years, nobody is working on development. Everybody wants to eat like ready-made food, and that's why we are losing. Everybody is losing that. So, from manufacturer, or maybe Monica, if you can say, who should be working on development, and how can we ensure that somebody is working on, and that system is integrated into the system, and or only turnkey is the solution? Because like if you see for 17, we can blame the bids, but nobody is offering the turnkey project. That's why we were not able to add those megawatts, gigawatts. But before that, since OEMs were offering the turnkey, we were able to add 20 gigawatt. So is turnkey the solution, and who should be working on development?
I would say this is a very controversial topic, Balram, because everybody has their thoughts and views on it. As a developer, the ideal situation would be definitely if we get a turnkey supplier who could do end-to-end for us, right? And we don't have to really worry about land and ROWs and a lot of non-technical issues on ground. Having said that, the reality is that people have burned hands on a turnkey project, right? Whether it is an OEM, whether it is an aggregator, whether it is a developer. A solution would be, again, I think solar parks have worked beautiful in the country, which has helped add a lot of gigawatts, and I may not have the number how many gigawatts from solar parks. But if we could start evaluating wind parks in various states, if we could probably start evaluating substation-based bidding, where areas are already identified by the local state machinery, and this support in terms of procuring land in that area, it wouldn't then really matter whether it falls in OEM bucket or a developer bucket. Eventually, it just will ensure that we execute the project on time, right? I think so. My proposal to SECI would be if we could figure out a mechanism by which we could simplify and ease out the land acquisition process, either through wind parks or through maybe we could have bids where revenue lands could be offered to developers. Or we could have war rooms or maybe joint coordination committee between the state and the center, specifically looking at land portions. Then I think it will be very easy for land aggregators or maybe even the OEMs to probably look at doing this from a turnkey solution.
Amit, what's your opinion on that? Who should be working on development? Except SECI.
No, I understand. See, we have done turnkey jobs, Balram, and it is a project challenge. Whether whoever does it, it's a project challenge. My view is that we should learn a little bit here from the West, how they are doing it. They're also doing wind projects. There are very qualified, established developer whose only job in life is to develop. And I agree with Monica. I think the 90% of the problem in turnkey is land. It was always the land and it's still the land. EPC is not a problem. We can do the foundations easily. We can do the lines and all that. Why the OEMs stepped out, and I can talk only about myself here, why the OEM stepped out of the turnkey thing is because of the land and right of way. It simply doesn't work in the system and it takes a lot of time and distracts the OEM from the work they actually do. So I think the issue is again and again land, land and land. And if that is sorted out, I don't think it matters whether it's turnkey or a EPC or whatever. I think all the OEMs, again, we will be more than happy to do everything else on the side other than the land and right of way.
Just I want to add, of course, question is a good question. Who is to take the responsibility? But challenge is challenge. Who will do either IPP or OEM? Challenge remains same. There is no change in the challenge, even earlier and now also. As all stakeholders together, we have to see, of course, just now mentioned on the land and infrastructure, we have to see how the challenge to be resolved. Just one thing maybe I can see why earlier is more. Earlier before auctions, more of the FITs, more of a state controlled. So a lot of things will be done by the state so that even land, even for any support required from the states, it's like easy to execute, even though that time OEMs need to do it. Now what happened because of auctions? Yes, is a lot of positive things. Because of auctions, it's more of a central control. So there is no between the state, central. Thus, collaboration is required. So then it can what happened earlier is we can see earlier all the executions are done well in control. Even when OEM is doing good planning and the states also supporting a lot. Now between the central and state, that collaboration is required more. Then challenges remain same. Then we can ready to do it as mentioned Amit, we are ready to do it turnkey. But who is going to be fix the challenges?
But since Lalit Bohra ji is there, I may just request. I think it will be a great timing now, if I may request you, sir, to have a central state kind of dialogue on how do we put and where do we put this remaining 50 gigawatt in the next 6 years? Which states who are willing to come forward? And challenge, I think all the state governments know the challenge is the land. But pioneered by MNRE, if such a meeting can be done with all the stakeholders on where the next 50 gigawatt goes and how will they make the land available, I think it can be a great service to the wind industry, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Just to inform that we are seized of this matter and maybe in November or December, we're planning to have a Chintan Sivir where we will have industry people the transmission companies, the state governments, and we want to have a 1 or 2 days of Chintan Sivir to see that how we can achieve this 500 gigawatt and how these 50 gigawatt biddings finally get fructifies and we get, because we do understand there are a lot of challenges, but we need to sit together and see that how we can overcome those. So that's already in our thought process.
Thank you, sir. So last 30 seconds each, that the topic making auctions work, especially in wind. So Mayank, if you start from single liner.
Sorry?
Making auctions work, 30 seconds.
I would say wherever there is will, there is way. And as an industry, I think if we all work together towards a common goal of setting up this 100 gigawatt by 2030, we'll find a way during Chinta Shivir and more such discussion that we are having. Thank you.
Shan.
I think structuring our ecosystem a bit, because ultimately we should realize we are generating for the nation, for the people of the country. So structuring our transmission, structuring the land in such a way that we ultimately reach the end goal in the best possible time, and the developers make money also. They should not face time and cost overruns because of some of the regulatory or local issues, which is a common problem in the wind industry. So these things, if it can be taken up on the ground structural level, maybe with the support of the government, both state and central government, we can definitely make the auctions work. And as we can see, the exciting FDRE auctions and yesterday's BSS auction, the prices are getting exciting and exciting.
Thank you. Monica.
I'll probably borrow, because he's sitting right next to me, I'll borrow his line. Honor the commitments. Developers to honor after they sign a PPA. SECI to honor once the auction is completed to get an LOA and timely go from LOA to PPA. State machinery to honor Section 68 and 164 approvals and ensure that ROWs are taken care of. And OEMs and EPCs to honor the time commitments and the price commitments.
Thank you. So now Gupta sir is thinking, because he was thinking to raise this point.
No. No, I was not, because once I have already said it, I will not repeat it. See, I think the concern is because there are some 35 gigawatts of LOAs which have been given or auctions which have been done for which PPA is pending. But also realize that last year we suddenly increased the trajectory of bidding from some 17, 18 gigawatt to 50 gigawatt. Now, absorption of that capacity and offtake by the state, making it 3 times, it takes time. So it's a kind of a two-thing trouble. It's a transition phase which will last for about not more than one and a half year, because states also have to fulfill their responsibility of RPO. So we will be going for a PPH for this. Timeline may be a bit higher now, they will keep on shortening. The second part, I think the suggestions is worth examining, that whether we can go for the wind park on the likes of solar park which had been done. Definitely, I think we will examine it. We will talk to the state, and also you talk to the state, MNRE, SECI, we will all talk to the state to ease out the processes on the land so that it becomes available. But there are going to remain challenges, whether developers does the project, whether OEM, they do the project on turnkey basis, or even the wind park developer, he will face the land problem. So land problem is going to remain there. We will have to better talk to the states for this. But make no mistake, there is target of 500 gigawatt and this is going to be done. So auctions will work and only auctions will work.
Thank you, sir. Lalit sir.
So, my view is what SECI CMD has said, that the way forward is the auction, and If there are obstacles, let's work together to overcome them. But the future is auction, and the time of going to FIT is now no more there. And auction has given us a lot of growth, like from 70 gigawatt in 2014 to 210 in 2024, 3 times through auctioning and working. So I think auction is the future, and certainly the challenges will keep on coming, and as we have done so far, we will continue to overcome that.
Yeah, definitely auctions definitely will work out. Here, I think in this firm, major 3 stakeholders, government, mainly MNRE and OEMs and IPPs. We have our own KPIs. Of course, we have to be achieve our own KPIs. But we have a lot of other stakeholders in government also, like CTU, CEA, Power Grid, and of course land departments, a lot of them. Actually, I think it's a high time to make one committee. They don't have a, if you ask me, they don't have a KPI. They have to follow their own regulations, rules. We should have a high level committee. So anything comes, they should be resolved on round table. So I think we require one round table, one committee to across all the stakeholders. Then that will be, I think it will be good to resolve the issues quickly.
We're running out of time, but I think all the great points, but I'll just add, sir, India has to be bold. Let's take a bold step. And this is my dream. I'm not saying you have to do it, but it's my dream. We need 50 gigawatt of wind in the next 5 years. And we are saying we are struggling on land, we are struggling on transmission because we have 18 months to 24 months to do. Let's do a 50 gigawatt auction from now till 2030. And let the world bid for that. Just a suggestion, just my dream, my opinion. But if it can happen, it will show us that it will give us ample time to prepare. And why am I saying that? There are auctions in many parts of the world. There are auctions in Germany. And I've seen in Germany, from auction to construction, it can take you 4 to 5 years. So I don't know how we do it in 18 to 2 years. We struggle. So it's a suggestion, but I'll leave it to you. Thank you.
Thank you. As per me, I'm also part of IPP. I think somebody has to take charge of development, because without development, and the second major lacking as far as wind sector is concerned is proper planning for execution. If we are able to time it properly, I think everybody can save a lot. Because I have seen that even the tariff which are higher than 3 rupees, the projects are not profitable, but the tariff is 242, the projects are profitable. So that meant, like, if we are able to bring in efficiency in the system, I think the tariff is, every tariff is viable, and is a question of only timely and with planning executing. And thanks to all of you, I think it's a very, like, before the session we had a discussion in the room, and I was thinking that it's going to be at a totally different tangent, but I think we had a very, very productive, and thanks Gupta sir, thanks and thanks to all the participants.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mehta. May I also request you to kindly present the mementos to all the speakers. So thanking all the speakers for sharing their take on the auctions and how to make them work towards the aspirations of our country, the energy aspirations, thanking them. Thanking once again first Shri Lalit Bohra. Okay, you can start from anywhere. I think thanking Mr. Lalit Bohra once again. Thanking Mr. Amit Kansal. Thank you, gratitude to Mr. RPV Prasad. Thanking Shri RP Gupta. Thank you to Ms. Monica Rathi. expression of thanks to Mr. Ishan Akhuri. To Mr. Mayank Lingwal. And may I request Mr. Arun Shashidharan, the EC member IWTMA, to please join us here on the stage as we thank our moderator, Mr. Balram Mehta. We'll close with a group photograph. Thank you to all in the audience also for joining us.